All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us tonight. My name's Aaron Fragnito with People's Capital Group, and I'm so excited to be doing something new here this evening than what we usually do. We're not going to be focused on building our own personal wealth or talking about real estate tonight or anything really around money wealth. We're going to be talking tonight. Well, actually, these lovely ladies are going to be talking about how to create a more social wealth, positive impact on this world, focus more on the cancer space. And I'll let Aaron and Dana explain what Lazarex does in a minute. But I really want to connect with this group because I was impressed with what they were doing. We had met a few months ago, and I've learned that an amazing statistic that 40% of people are diagnosed with cancer, which is a crazy statistic. And I love what your group is doing, helping those cancer victims, helping with the financial burden created through cancer care. And but without further ado, Aaron or Darren, Dana, if you want to get started here, you can explain a little bit about what you do and how your nonprofit helps people.
Sure, Aaron. I just want to say thank you so very much for inviting us to come on and speak today. And thank you to People's Capital Group for allowing us this forum to kind of get our message out. We really appreciate it. I'm Erin Miller. I'm the development manager for Lazarex Cancer Foundation. It was my harrowing experience with my husband, Mike, years ago, who was diagnosed with cancer. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story. But first, I'm going to turn it over to my sister and colleague, Dana Dornsife, to introduce herself.
Hello. Thank you, Erin and Aaron. I'm Dana Dornsife, founder, Chief Mission and Strategy Officer for Lazarex Cancer Foundation, and it's our absolute pleasure to be able to do this with you today.
Thank you. Absolutely. I'm so glad to have you here. And what I found amazing about us chatting about there was what insurance doesn't cover in cancer and in cancer care. I'm sure you'll get into that today. But yes, thank you so much for coming on. And I just want to give you both the floor for the next 15 or 20 minutes or so. And I'll butt in with some questions as we go along as well. But why don't we start a little bit, Aaron, with your story as well on kind of the basis and what sparked your idea to start this incredible nonprofit here.
Sure. So as I mentioned, about 20 years ago, in 2003, my husband, Mike, at 44 years old, was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. We had no warning signs. It was totally out of the blue. We had 3 small children at the time. I had just become a stay-at-home mom with my third one. And it really, threw us for a loop, needless to say. And Mike looked at me right away as soon as he was diagnosed. And he said, look, if I want to stand a chance at surviving this, I need to find a clinical trial. So we went home, we digested it, we called our families, we started looking immediately for a trial. And it was in that state of mind with the 3 kids and everything going on, and Mike he needed to start on his chemotherapy regimen like right away while we were looking for a trial. And it was impossible. There was no way I could do it. So I called my sister, I phoned a friend and said, can you please help me? And Dana threw herself into it headlong for 5 weeks, working full time to find us clinical trial options. And we were able to find a trial that was a gene therapy trial. Mike was a geneticist, so that was like right up his alley. And they accepted us into the trial. And we were super excited about it. We had hope. Right. And then we realized that we were going to have to travel back and forth to the Philippines for this trial. And that we were going to have to stay 3 weeks at a time. And it was going to pretty much exhaust our savings in order for him to have this last chance at hope in life.
Right.
And so, sadly, I went back to my family and I'm like, you guys, I don't think we can do this. And they were like, oh, but yes, you are, we're going to, they wrote checks. They helped us financially. They came and tag teamed our children. The other thing that Mike wasn't able or willing to do was to go by himself at that time. He was basically just given a death sentence and he did not want to be alone.
Yeah.
So I was fortunate enough, because I had the support of a family who was able to give it to me. We had a chance at hope in life. And the result of that was that Mike was able to live for 19 months instead of the 3 that they predicted. And in that 19 months, he felt really good on his trial. So he was able to coach my daughter's softball team, and who was 4 at the time, her t-ball team, and, take my boys Boy Scout camping, and just make some really, really good memories during that 19 months. So, although we lost Mike, it was the most incredible gift to be able to give that to my children. And so, as we were going through the process, people would say, well, how did you figure all this out? And, Mike would write down Dana, and he'd write down her phone number and he'd hand it to people and say, oh, just call my sister-in-law. She'll help you out. So she started going through the same things again. She would, work diligently to find trials for people. And then she'd present them to them and they'd say, yeah, man, we'd love to do this. It's like, we have to do this, but we can't afford it. So that is organically how Lazarex started. We kept looking at each other, Dana and I, saying, somebody needs to do something about this. This is messed up.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, it was my sister, Dana, who founded Lazarex Cancer Foundation in 2006 to fill the gaps that we found along our way in our journey. So that was our original program, our CARE program, which is still our primary program today. And through that program, we do clinical trial navigation for anyone who needs it, whether they need it because they've run out of options, or whether they just want to have a plan B in place.
Right.
With their diagnosis, in case things go south, they need something else to do. So we do clinical trial navigation, and then we fundraise so that we can reimburse patients for their travel expenses. That's the biggest expense that clinical trial participants have, is their travel expense back and forth to the site.
At People's Capital Group, we help you invest in real estate. Build your wealth by owning professionally managed apartment buildings in the northern New Jersey market. We want to show you how owning real estate is attainable, even for the busy professionals that don't have the time or experience investing in real estate. Now, we only work with select people who are serious about building wealth. So find out if you qualify at peoplescapitalgroup.com.
Right.
So we actually reimburse them and their travel companion for flights, for hotel stays, for gas tolls, parking, whatever they need to get where they need to be for their clinical trial treatment. And thus far, since 2006, we've been able to assist over 10,000 cancer patients find and participate in trials, some of whom were given months to live or even weeks. And 12, 13 years later, they may be on their 3rd or 4th or 5th trial, and we're still reimbursing them so that they can get there and continue to spend time with their families.
That's incredible. Oh my gosh. That's a really beautiful story, and sad, but beautiful. And what I found interesting about your foundation as well is that sometimes the trials are covered by insurance, sometimes they're not, right? And that's another caveat, but the travel to get there is never covered by insurance. Like, that's right. And they really never offered by health insurance, right? So that it provides a huge gap. And I love how your foundation here, you and Dana, step in here and able to cover that gap. That's incredible. And Dana, I know you're also the driving force behind it as well. And you want to explain a little bit of your side as well, some of your story also?
Sure. So first of all, I do want to just again reiterate what you opened up with, Aaron, and that is that 40% of people listening or who are exposed to this podcast or Zoom meeting will be diagnosed with cancer during their lifetime. And if they're not, they will know someone who is. And so sadly, with cancer, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when and how it will impact your life. And so Aaron and I are really committed to helping people be prepared
Mm-hmm.
in the event that takes place. And I also just want to applaud you for doing something a little bit different for the benefit of the people who you work with, who you formed relationships with. I know you focus on building personal wealth. And, my sister Erin experienced, the basic financial wipeout of her personal wealth that, she and Mike built up. They had a beautiful home. They were, just had a beautiful life together. And by the time Mike passed away, she was hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. And so things like that do happen. It is real. And cancer just has a way of leveling the playing field from a financial perspective. And so it really is helpful when you can be ready, to take action on a cancer diagnosis. So I started Lazarex in 2006, as Aaron mentioned. And, over the years, we've just really tried to increase the relevance of what we do in the lives of cancer patients and their families. And we do that by continuing to address barriers as they come up and come along, right? And as we recognize them, so that, people can actually take advantage of medical breakthroughs in technology and clinical trials, take advantage of new treatments that are out there, and hopefully help people have a better cancer outcome. That's our whole goal, right? And so we have several programs that allow us to do that. And the first one is, this clinical trial navigation. I mean, we believe knowledge is power, right?
Sure.
And so when you first go through that, that shock stage of, oh my goodness, myself or my loved one has cancer. What do we do now? The very first thing is to find out as much as you can about the type of cancer that you have been diagnosed with, what the treatment options are for that particular type of cancer,
right?
What your insurance will or will not cover, because the best treatment for you may not be what your doctor or the facility that you're visiting is talking to you about. They're only going to talk to you about what they have.
Right.
And it's a big misperception out there that when the medical personnel are having a personal conversation with you, that it's all inclusive. It's not. In many instances, they're only, talking about what they can offer. So it's really important that people understand what is out there and what that means for them if they want to have access to it. And that's where, in many instances, clinical trials can become a real arrow in your quiver, because a lot of the chemotherapies, for instance, that are still being offered as standard of care were, they were approved 40 or 50 years ago.
Right.
You can believe it, right? And so if a chemotherapy doesn't work, or, if, standard of care doesn't work, it's great for you to be able to participate in a clinical trial and take advantage of the latest and greatest, right? So Lazarex works to help fill that knowledge gap, provide the information that people need to know about the type of cancer they've been diagnosed with, what their options are, where their clinical trials are for them, that they could participate in, and to provide financial assistance to them as needed so they can get there. A big part of that too is understanding the specific characteristics of your particular type of cancer. Just like our fingerprint, cancer has its own unique characteristics. And the way that we unpack that and understanding more about that cancer is through what we call next generation sequence testing or genomic testing, right?
Right.
And if you undergo genomic testing, and everyone should with a cancer diagnosis, then that testing will reveal the unique aspects of your cancer, like particular mutations or protein expressions or whatever, that may indicate that there's one treatment that would be more effective over another, right? And so it's really important to understand the characteristics that are unique to your particular type of cancer. A lot of these therapies today are, like, you hear a lot about precision medicine and targeted therapies and personalized medicine and all of those things. Those are all dependent upon having genomic testing done. Right. And if you don't, what's going to happen is you'll be given a more generalized chemotherapy treatment that impacts all of your cells, the cancer cells and your healthy cells. Sure. And consequently has a lot of side effects, right? Yeah. Versus a very targeted treatment that is only going to impact your cancer cells and hopefully have a more powerful, effect for you.
Right. Of course. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And it seems similar to, it's so important to understand your options with healthcare. I had a situation where my wife was very sick, and it's very complicated understanding even what the issue was. And we went to multiple doctors and got a completely different answer with different specialists and different doctors in different states. We found politics played a role of this one, and they had different, and I was like, this doesn't make any sense. How could there be such a difference of opinions from so many, qualified doctors? And what it showed me was that healthcare is anything from black and white. In fact, it's very gray, a lot of, and what a solution is, what works for you may not work for me, and vice versa. So knowledge is power, and absolutely understanding your options first is the most important thing. And when we understand our options, we don't panic necessarily and make a jump decision and, invest all of our money in this or that, or because often you have a limited amount of capital to put towards this issue. And this is the most important issue you need to fix in your life. So knowing your options and knowing what direction to lean in and who to really go to is so important. So I love how that's one of the first things your group does there. That's incredible. Yeah.
At People's Capital Group, we help you invest in real estate. Build your wealth by owning professionally managed apartment buildings in the northern New Jersey market. We want to show you how owning real estate is attainable, even for the busy professionals that don't have the time or experience investing in real estate. Now, we only work with select people who are serious about building wealth. So find out if you qualify at peoplescapitalgroup.com.
And then clearly understanding from an insurance perspective, what you have access to, right?
Correct.
So like for Aaron, Mike's insurance didn't cover the clinical trial, so fortunately the drug was provided free of charge, but, we were constantly reaching into her credit cards were maxed, my credit cards were maxed. Our other sister's credit cards were maxed every month on copays and, just craziness. And fortunately, she had a family who could help her through that. A lot of people don't.
Right.
And so what happens then? Right. But also just something as simple as, living in New Jersey, right? And then needing to cross over into New York to go to be treated, right? A lot of times insurance doesn't even allow you to leave your state.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
So it's really, there's a lot to it. And it comes at a time when people are already burdened. They're burdened, financially, emotionally, spiritually. And there's not a lot of bandwidth there to be able to work through all that. So we do our best to hold people by the hand and really help them navigate through all of that.
Well, sometimes that's the hardest part of getting sick is understanding, well, not the hardest part, but one of the most confusing parts is understanding what insurance covers, what it doesn't. I recall many doctors saying, yes, we accept that insurance, and then only finding out that they really didn't after actually seeing them. So it was very confusing. It was hard to get a clear answer from the insurance company. Quite frankly, they didn't seem like they were really on our side. It seemed like they were just interested in making sure they don't have to lay out too much cash. And I get it, they're running a business, but that, boy, an insurance space is hard to navigate. It certainly is. I'm glad your group offers guidance there, but yeah.
There were so many times in my journey with Mike that I was like, you know what? If I did not have a family that could help support us, this would be the end of our cancer journey. We would have no more journey. There was one time when Mike had to take a prescription. We were supposed to pick up 10 doses of this medication at the pharmacy. And I pulled up to the pharmacy, and the pharmacy tech was in tears. And she said, Miss Aaron, I'm so sorry. She said, your insurance doesn't cover it. It's $110,000.
Oh my gosh.
So she was
and he couldn't get his next treatment unless he had that medicine.
It was critical. It was absolutely critical. And so I'm crying. She was crying. I called my family, and my family was able to get it done. But man, there were so many times when I was like, this is crazy. This would be the end of the line for us. And I feel like, so many people don't have the kind of support that I did. And it's heartbreaking. It really is.
That is so sad and so scary as well. And so if someone knows someone in their family, or they themselves are diagnosed with cancer and they're looking for help, where would they go with your group? How could they get in touch with you for that?
So we have all of our programs and resources are listed. We have an excellent website. It's www.lazarex.org. And on the website there's an info@Lazarex that people can email us. We have a whole team waiting for questions and inquiries to come in, or they can call our office. Our phone number is also listed there on that website. We have an 800 number and a regular number. And we're, the phones are ringing off the hook. And it's interesting, since COVID, we've seen a 40% increase in the number of patients that are calling for services.
Wow. And to our listeners out there that want to make a difference, maybe they had a family member who they lost to cancer, or just know of the challenges here from these stories that you're telling. So when someone makes a donation to your nonprofit, what are some of the things that capital goes into?
So Lazarex is a 501c3 public charity. So 100% of every donation is tax deductible. So that's important to note. And we're fortunate in that all of our overhead is covered by my husband and myself. And so literally every penny that someone donates goes to our programs.
Right.
And so it will cover clinical trial navigation, we do not charge anybody ever for clinical trial navigation. That is something we provide at no cost for any type of cancer, any phase clinical trial, people from all walks of life, right? We are like Switzerland when it comes to helping people with cancer and helping to identify clinical trial opportunities. For our patients who need financial assistance, we cover all of the travel costs associated with clinical trial participation. So literally planes, trains, automobiles, gas tolls, parking, Uber, boats, you name it. We've VRBOs, whatever, people need in order to get where they need to be. We also have another program called the Lazarex Cancer Wellness Hub. And, the Cancer Wellness Hub is really focused on our underserved communities of color, where they're disproportionately impacted by a cancer diagnosis due to many things. You hear a lot of talk about social determinants of health, which come into play. And there, the inequities in access are really play an important role in someone's outcome. Sure. And so we do a lot of work through our Cancer Wellness Hub to help to establish a platform, create a platform of equitable access, continue to, remove those barriers. Is it a language barrier? Is it a fear or mistrust barrier? Does someone have, government assisted insurance and not have a medical home, right? That they can even begin to get treatment at, right? So connecting people to their home, helping them with insurance navigation, really working access to screenings, establishing the treatment pathway. Right. These are all services that we provide through our Cancer Wellness Hub. And we really do depend on the general public to be able to provide these types of services. And we're the only organization who does what we do in the entire United States. And it's been that way for 17 years.
Really? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. There are lots of cancer organizations, as you may know, cancer foundations, but none of them do specifically what Lazarex does. They might do a little part or piece, but not as comprehensively as we do. And we will stick with a patient from start to finish. That is our commitment. So we don't ever want to put a patient in a position where they start a treatment and, 3 months down the road, we say, oh, we're sorry, our assistance is over now. And they're stuck, right?
Defeats the purpose.
When that's their lifeline.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So we take that obligation very seriously.
At People's Capital Group, we help you invest in real estate. Build your wealth by owning professionally managed apartment buildings in the northern New Jersey market. We want to show you how owning real estate is attainable, even for the busy professionals that don't have the time or experience investing in real estate. Now, we only work with select people who are serious about building wealth, so find out if you qualify at peoplescapitalgroup.com.
Yeah, and I saw on your website you've donated over $25 million, I believe, to help cancer victims. Is that number accurate? What number am I thinking of there on your website?
Aaron, I'm not even sure historically where we are, but it's got to be at least close to pushing 20 million. Because, just last year alone, we were over 3 or almost 4 million in program services. Yeah. So I
think it's 25 million. It says on the site there.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess I need to look at our website more often.
Yeah, it's incredible. Wow. And Dana, it's so incredible as well that you can help support this cause also financially and make a difference here. And Aaron, your story is sad but inspiring at the same time, and you've used it to make a real difference in this world as well. I love the story. I love what you're doing here. And for our listeners here, so just to go, it's lazarex.org. We'll put in the show notes. LAZAREX.org is the website. Great website. I've been clicking around on it myself there as well. The number is 925-850-4517. And this is the Lazarex Cancer Foundation. Where'd that name come from? I'm curious.
Well, that's a very interesting question.
We get asked that often. When Mike was in his clinical trial for his pancreatic cancer, he was on a medicine called Rexin G. That was his clinical trial medication. And when we started out, we were going to help people because we were familiar with pancreatic cancer. We were going to help people with, finding and participating in pancreatic cancer trials. But really, really quickly learned that it doesn't matter. It's the same. We're doing the same thing, either way. So we very soon started helping patients with any type of cancer find trials, FDA approved clinical trials all over the country. But it was kind of Lazarus, a second chance of life from the Bible, although we're not a religious organization. And we help everyone and anyone who needs our help. But it was a combination of Lazarus and the Rex and G became Lazarex.
Beautiful. I love that. That's great. Well, no, listen, I'm so glad you were both able to come on the show here, and we'll definitely put these your website and the phone number in the show notes here for everyone to reach out to you. And I was really happy to kind of change the topic here on the Passive Cash Flow podcast and talk about something serious but important and impactful. We'll also talk with my business partner here as well. We'd love to help out the cause. So, no, this is great. I'm going to be reaching out to some more people in our network as well, and tap some people on the shoulder here. And we'd love to get more donations into your group here and just support the cause in every way we can. And then there's volunteer opportunities, right, for people that maybe don't have such deep pockets. Let's talk briefly about the volunteer opportunities that you have.
So we do several events during the course of the year. One event comes to mind because I have a feeling that this will be a crowd that's not all in one area, but maybe in a widespread area. We have a 544K. 544 miles is the average number of miles that our patients travel to get to their clinical trial treatments. That's why it's 5.44K. But it's a walk, a run, a bike ride. It's whatever you want to do for 5.44 miles. You register on our site. You can form a team. You can be a team captain and get other people to join your team. And it's all about peer-to-peer fundraising. And that happens in April every year. And so we're happy to, in fact, we're just coming up with the date for our April event for 2024, Aaron. So we'll let you know what that is, and you can put that out with this information as well.
Yeah, I'd love that. And unfortunately, this podcast episode will air after your gala coming up in a few days. But every year you do a big gala in San Francisco there. Is that right?
That's right. This will be our first live event since 2019, like many other organizations. But we're really excited to go back live. And we tend to do really fun, adventuresome, kind of crazy gala events in different places, and it's lots of fun. So anybody who's out this way or wants to come out this way is welcome to join us.
I love it. To our listeners, my friends, this is what it's all about, is creating wealth so you can give back and be philanthropic. That is my goal personally for why I work so hard to create that legacy wealth, not only for my family, but really so I can make a difference in my local community, for also nationwide as well, and focus on something and some people that really need help in this world. And there's what I love about your cause as well is it's not political at all. It's really, who cannot be for helping cancer victims? I love it. It's so important. It's not dividing us. It's putting us together as one. It's helping to unite us as human beings against a common enemy, and that's a beautiful thing as well. So to my listeners out there, take a break from building that wealth, running around with that hustle, always focused on multiplying our money in our bank account, and let's take a moment and let's give back. I really encourage you to check out lazarex.org here and connect with this Lazarex Cancer Foundation. They're just amazing. And Aaron and Dana here coming on the show and telling us your story, although sad and heartbreaking, but eye-opening and inspiring as well. But really take action, to my listeners, and make a difference, and donate that money that you're making. Not all of it, but some of it needs to go back to good causes.
Even just 5% of your wealth. It's an amount that you're not even going to know, right? There'll be no impact on your quality of life or, your your financial planning or anything like that. And it will could make a huge difference in the life of someone or their family member who just doesn't have those kinds of resources.
Absolutely. And that's what it's all about, my friends. The whole purpose of us getting up early, working hard, working smart, investing our capital wisely, learning about investment opportunities, taking calculated risks is that at the end of the day, we can come home and take a little extra of that capital and give to causes that we believe in, that we are really are heartfelt for. And this, in my opinion, should be one of them. I think this is a great thing you're doing. I think it's an incredible impact on the world you're having. So contact the Lazarex Foundation here. They're really doing a great thing. And consider donating. Consider donating a serious amount as well. Not only can you make a huge impact, but hey, it's a tax write-off. So at the end of the day, it's also a smart financial move because you can pay less taxes. Instead of giving your money to the government, give it to causes that really make a difference, where you know where your money is really actually going instead of the black hole of the government.
Yeah, that's true.
What were you going to say, Aaron? Okay. Absolutely. All right. Any parting words for our listeners, ladies?
We just really appreciate this opportunity, Aaron. And, you're opening the door for us to a whole new potential audience of listeners. And our experience tells us that somewhere out there in that new audience, there will be someone who will say, oh my gosh, I have to call Lazarex because I need them, right? And I need their help. And we're here to assist, ready, willing, and able. And so, thank you for opening that door. And if there is anyone out there, who would like to support us, we would just genuinely appreciate it. And thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That
and
number.
Go ahead. I would just wrap up by saying as well that cancer diagnosis is incredibly scary. But it is not a death sentence. And the beauty is that right now there are so many resources out there for patients. You don't have to go through it alone. And we're happy to connect people to resources that they need.
Yeah, I love that. You're absolutely right. That number again, 925-850-4517. Pick up the phone, call Lazarex. Let's make a difference. Okay. Take that wallet out. Let's make a difference. All right, everybody. I know I've worked hard over 150 episodes to help you build that wealth, to teach you how to multiply your wealth. Let's take some of those earnings. Let's give back. Let's do that today. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for coming on, Aaron and Dana. I really appreciate you joining the Cash Flow Podcast here. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks, Aaron.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, have a good night.